Hello, and welcome to Broadcasting Corner. I am your host, Sam Gillis. Our guest today is Paul Hollingsworth. Paul is a news anchor for CTV News who also has an extensive background in sports reporting. He is here to talk about his journey in the world of broadcasting to where he is today. Paul, thank you for coming today.
It's my pleasure, and I'm flattered that you asked me, so thank you very much.
So first off, Paul, I know that you went to King's College for a Bachelor of Journalism. Can you speak on your time at King's?
Look, King's was the jumping off point to my career. If I'm being 100% honest, the foundational piece of my education was St. Mary's University. Mm-hmm. I went there for a Bachelor of Arts in English, emphasized on Shakespearean studies. Funny path for a guy who wanted to be a sportscaster. But I went to St. Mary's, got a Bachelor of Arts, got a good education at a strong liberal arts institution, worked for the school newspaper, worked for the school radio station, put a lot of tools in my toolbox, academically speaking, applied to King's, got into the journalism program at King's, received a bachelor's degree in journalism, and from there, thankfully, entered the workforce. And I've been very blessed. The past 27 years have been pretty fun. So
you said you went to St. Mary's. Mm-hmm. Do you think that your schooling prepared you perfectly for the industry?
100%. For good question, and several reasons why I did. First of all, when you go to university at that age, and I was young, I was also immature young for my age, I needed grounding, I needed foundational pieces beneath me. I don't think I was ready to enter into a professional degree or diploma program. The comparative I would say is this: you're here for a 2-year program. Ideally in 2 years you will enter the workforce at the age of 20, 21, thereabouts. I was not that person 27, 28, 29 years ago. I needed more time. I needed to percolate a little bit. So going to St. Mary's prepared me for the next step, which was King's, which prepared me for the next step, which was my university, my professional career. That's a long way of saying it didn't come easy to me, but slow, step by step, it happened.
So you said you were immature. When you were in high school, did you know that broadcasting was the career you wanted to go into?
I did.
Yeah.
I used to stare in the mirror and anchor. One of my proudest accomplishments is this. I used to stare in the bathroom mirror and pretend I was anchoring TSN Sports Desk, as they called it back then. And I would memorize sports stats and facts and scores and look into the mirror and pretend I was anchoring a sports show. 21 years later, I anchored Sports Center for real, nationally across the country. So that was always a neat little thing in my mind. So I always dreamed about it. But I came from an environment of low expectations. I came from a neighborhood where people didn't chase their dreams as much as they should have. That's the honest truth. And I was guilty of that myself. So I always thought that I was dreaming something that was for other people to achieve, not for me. And that's the maturity I'm talking about. It took me to get into my 20s to realize, I can do this. If I do this the right way, go after it on a long game, mature, patient format, I can achieve my goals. And I think I have for the most part.
So you said you were watching Sports Desk on TSN. Was there a certain someone you idolized and you looked up to?
Well, way back in the day, Michael Landsberg on TSN, I was a fan of his. Don Whitman for CBC Sports. I believe he's one of the greatest sportscasters this country has ever seen. I was a huge fan and admirer of him. I had a father in the media. My dad's still alive, so I still have a father who was in the media. So I looked at the world through the prism of newspaper journalism and broadcasting journalism. Al Michaels from ABC Sports. I remember him broadcasting the U.S. Olympic team's gold medal in 1980. I was in grade 5, way back in 1980. So the poet Tennyson talks about being a part of all that I've met. I am a part of all the ones that I've met and watched along the way. I'd see this person and that person, want to be like this person, want to be like that person. And it helped me sort of hone my own skills going forward.
So you also said you also mentioned that being on TSN was a major goal of yours. What other goals did you set and still do? Like what goals do you still have that you would like to reach?
I want to live a meaningful life. I want to be a community builder. That may sound like an altruistic thing to say. It may sound like a clever soundbite to try to make myself sound in a positive way. It's not. I come from a neighborhood that was very working class. I come from a neighborhood that was populated with people like me who grew up not thinking they had it made, who grew up thinking that success was for other people to achieve. And I decided a long time ago that if you focus your energies to knowing that you have 168 hours a week to give to your community and lean into it the best way you can be, It's a scientific fact that will come back to you tenfold. In other words, the saying, whatever you put into your world comes back to you and makes you a better person. And I have the life story to back it up. I think it's true.
I also know that you split time with CTV and TSN. Can you just give me an explanation about how you got to where you were? How did you get to CTV and then ultimately to TSN, as you said you wanted to be a sports broadcaster?
I graduated from University of King's College in 1995. I had 2 university degrees. I did not have a job, so I volunteered at CTV. It was called ATV back then. 40 hours a week for 4 months. I was an unpaid intern with 2 university degrees in my back pocket, not making any money. Eventually, they hired me to be the teleprompter operator. From there, I became a newsroom assistant, writing scripts. And from there, within about 3 or 4 years, they let me do some sportscasting. And then I became a sports anchor. I just told you that in 20 seconds. Yeah. It took 7 years of work and courage and frustration and setbacks and disappointments, all those things. The TSN thing is, in 2001, a gentleman named Jim Panousis, a producer for TSN, good friend of mine, called me up out of the blue and said, we'd like you to start doing part-time stuff for TSN. We've noticed your work. And so my boss and him came to an arrangement, and they let me be a full-time CTV person who would go to TSN on the side. And then that morphed into me going to TSN full-time for 6 or 7 years, just a short time ago, before I came back to CTV.
So when you were at TSN, what would you say your greatest accomplishment was, even at CTV? Like you said earlier, your dream was to be a sports anchor. What was your moment you knew you were like, this is like, I made it. Like,
Anchoring Sports Center is pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I remember sitting on the desk at the glass, shiny desk, and there's all those orange and red lights around you because the theme for TSN is orange and red colors. And the floor director, just like the floor director a second ago, stand by, 60 seconds, up in 30. And I'm kind of going, okay, here goes nothing. I'm on national TV anchoring Sports Center. That was pretty cool. That's a moment that you have to say, okay, this matters to me. This is an accomplishment. And I probably hosted, I don't know, 200 or 300 Sports Center shows. I lost track. On that's the 10,000-foot answer. The lower answer would be from a baseball standpoint. I was a huge baseball fan growing up. I still am a baseball fan. I was the kid who memorized the backs of sports baseball cards. I was that guy. I went to 14 straight World Series for TSN. 14. I became their baseball reporter. I went to spring training 7 or 8 years in a row. I went to the World Baseball Classic, covered baseball playoffs, regular season games, traveled with the Blue Jays. There are 30 teams in Major League Baseball. I've been to 26 or 27 of the stadiums. For a little boy who used to daydream about baseball, to be from Halifax, to stay from Halifax, to not leave Halifax, to not go someplace else to chase your dream, to do it from here, and to be able to be TSN's baseball reporter, in quotation marks. It wasn't like it was my official designated title, but that's what I became. To do that and live on Lyngby Avenue in Dartmouth and achieve it was something that they can't take that from me. I'm always quite proud of that.
Is there, so like you said, when you were on TSN and the floor director was giving you cues, were you nervous? And do you get nervous as being a broadcaster now?
No. And now look, I don't want it to sound blasé. I get butterflies when I prepare. I have a mechanism in me that makes me pay attention to exact details, and that puts a level of anxiety in you that keeps you honest, just like driving a car. When you're driving down the street, you don't want to drive like a maniac. You have to be careful. There are rules you go by. There are guidelines you have to stay within. There are certain parameters you have to play within. And that gives you a hyper sense of paying attention inside your mind. I have that. And that brings maybe a butterfly feeling of anticipation. But if nervousness is equated to self-doubt, no, I don't think so. I think when I first started, everyone was nervous. I mean, you probably were nervous today doing this. We all get nervous. That's okay. But in my career, once you get to that point, you push that out and you use that to fuel your focus and drive to focus on the task at hand. Because if you spend too much time worrying about how nervous you are, you're not spending enough time worried about the job you have to do. All
right. Lastly, Paul, is there any advice you would like to give a young aspiring journalist like myself?
It's a good question. If you have a dream, chase it. If you have a dream, protect it. And if you have a dream, never let anyone tell you you can't achieve it. There have been times in my life I did that. Hang on to your dreams and don't let anyone tell you what you can and can't do, because you can achieve anything if you focus your mind to it. I firmly believe it.
All right, Paul. Well, thank you very much on your insight in the broadcasting industry. That's all the time we have today. Be sure to come back next week to Broadcasting Corner.